Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, welcome along. Just enlarge the screen for the classroom. Not a lot to draw today, just 3 toadstools. Have you done acrylics before, Mark?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, excellent. You did a very good pastel for that one that you did, so that's good. Is that?
Yeah, I was happy with that. I've looked at it a few times since, and
Yeah.
it was
First attempt. Exactly. That's really good. So acrylics are basically the nearest thing I can compare them to is emulsion paint, but they're plastic. So the problem with them is when they're dry, that's it. You can't blend it, smudge it, or do anything. So if you get any on your brush and leave it on there, you've lost your brush basically. But what is good about them is that they're opaque, so you can put lights on top of darks and do all that. So a bit like oils in that respect, whereas watercolors you have to, because they're transparent, you have to go from light to dark. You can't put light on top. So that's where acrylics is on its own. I like the fact that they dry quickly. When I used to Dale Arowney, one of the UK's and world's largest art suppliers, I was their acrylic demonstrator for the UK for a few years. And we'd only get 45-minute demonstrations wherever we were, so it was quite good that it dried quickly, that you can just slap it on. So the good thing is there's no fear, because you can keep correcting it and you can keep coming back to it. So oils take months to dry, acrylics take minutes to dry. So I just before you came up, I squeezed out the paint, because if I'd squeezed it out any earlier, you'd just get like discs of plastic. So yeah, I've just drawn the two the three toadstools. Rosemary, don't worry. Hello, Trish. I can't see your comments on the screen. That's annoying. I'm on my phone looking at you. I'm on my old phone looking at the comments. Watch it now, paint later. That's fine. You've done a lovely job. I saw your boat that you posted the other day. Everyone else is just drawing now. The real life people, Rosemary. So don't worry. There's not a huge amount to draw. A soggy day today, isn't it? It was actually really glorious yesterday. I went out on my push bike, which I don't do very often.
Nice.
Well, I have a replica 1940s sit up and beg bike, no gears and rod brakes.
Gosh. Okay.
So I can't take it out very often because I'm very out of shape, and even a slight incline is like walking up Everest.
I'm a keen cyclist. I prefer things like
Gears. Yes. So mine's quite big. Just trying to get onto it. I've got short legs and I can't. It takes me ages to get on. So if I have to like stop for traffic, it's quite. You really, my head is way higher than any car roof.
So it's the wheels are the same size though.
I think so. I don't know if they're a bit bigger, but I think they must be.
No, I mean,
it's not a penny farthing.
No, but there's some.
Some of them have got bigger and smaller.
Yeah.
In fact, my friend Tom Carradine, who's a vintage singer, he does a Cockney sing-along piano player in London, and he's quite a celebrity on the vintage scene. For his 40th last year, he was given a penny farthing, and he actually rides it in Victorian dress through London when he's going shopping. If you got it, you might as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I wouldn't have a clue how to get on one of them.
Where does your shopping go?
Well, this is it. I think he only buys.
Rucksack.
He only does it to show off, I reckon. But he tried to get it on the tube and everything. Honestly, he's ever so funny. He's top. But
Oh, it doesn't sound it. This one, it's not.
He's got a wonderful, really long, waxed, curled moustache as well.
Oh.
So he's really into it. His wife dresses very normally, but It's Carradine's Cockney Sing-Along. If you've got an Alexa device or you've got Amazon Music, you can ask her to play his music, because it's he's a bit of a name. He sang at one of my shows actually. A friend of Rosemary's regularly rides a penny farthing in full plate armour. Right, okay.
In armour?
Yeah, well, how does he get up in armour? That's interesting. I'm
Very
intrigued
hot.
now. Have we got photographs, Rosemary?
Mine have got very big, these mushrooms. Much too fat. Oh, for goodness sake. I try to put less taste in. And then it comes out. I'm panicking because I've got to get this right. You see, I have to put pressure on myself.
I'm intrigued about your friend in armour. What, like dressed as a knight or something? I just want to know more. How would you get your leg up? I mean, yeah. I mean, it must be very jointed. Yes, like a winch.
The frame's probably just gonna.
Yeah, I'm
They
intrigued.
used to have devices to get the knights on them, didn't
I
they?
mean, more often wears mail armour, and he's the guy that traversed the Alps on a space hopper.
I mean,
Okay.
something I would like to see, Barry, is knights in armour, penny farthing jousting.
Oh wow, penny farthing jousting.
Yes, that would be a spectacle, wouldn't it?
Yes, that would be really interesting
Right, gotta do
in the
these.
marketplace. Because Rosemary does, oh, what's it called, Rosemary? What you do? Reenactment, medieval you're medieval, aren't you? Medieval reenactment. So it's not unusual for someone like Rosemary to know people like this. Pretty cool. I had no Jackie today. She's really poorly.
Oh dear. Is it this cold that's going on?
Well, she had a really bad chesty cough a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it had got better. But when she left here on Friday, she wasn't feeling too good, and she's been really poorly all weekend. She's doing tests. It isn't the dreaded COVID yet. But she said, "What should I do?" And I said, "Well, it sounds like whether you got COVID or not, you don't sound well enough anyway. So just don't come in." I wouldn't come in if I felt poorly, because I don't want you to give anything to me. Because if I'm ill, I can't work.
No.
So bless her. I've just asked her lunchtime, asked her how she was. She's still not great.
The thing is, nowadays you feel you've got to justify it, you know.
Any cough? Yes.
But I think it's given everybody more appreciation of how germs spread.
Absolutely.
And I've noticed that there are have been fewer people with really bad colds. I know it's not, people haven't been mixing as much, but I think people are more aware just how germs spread.
Just be.
Wash your hands.
Well, this is it, and I think that's what's really made a big impact, isn't it? Just by using soap.
And
Well,
not,
yeah.
and kind of getting rid of cash food
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. All of the stuff that can, yeah, or blowing out candles on a birthday cake. I can't imagine doing that now. You
No,
know,
I know.
all the
Spitting all on it.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. That's quite.
We took it all.
You take it for granted.
Let me just spit all my.
And then we'll share it up. Yeah.
Let's just eat the remnants of your spit.
Yeah.
Mm.
But no, I've not been poorly, you know, for 2.5 years really, because I wear my mask when I'm out, and I think if I had a cold, I would be more inclined to pop a mask on to feel as that barrier, so other people know. Keep your distance a little
that's
bit.
The whole concept of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not for you. It's not. They're not going to prevent you picking anything.
No.
Really.
And when I
It's
said,
just it's more of a barrier.
It's
The visual aid, isn't it?
when I think how, the West used to, I don't know, used to laugh at Chinese and Japanese people going on the underground with
Yeah.
now we're sorry.
Maybe that's why they did it.
I must admit, I haven't been on the bus since COVID, and I used to have the bus everywhere, and I got to go back to it because of the petrol.
Well, do you know what? It's interesting. The bus where I live, it's still cheaper for me to drive into town and pay to park all day than it is to have a return ticket to come in. Which to me, it defeats they're trying to cancel my bus. We've only got till it's supposed to go next week, but they've managed to keep it until August. But it's the main bus from Daventry to Banbury, so it services all of the villages along the way, and they were just going to pull it. That's crazy.
You see, I don't know.
And it's only every hour, but what the villagers that are trying to save it from all the different villages saying, well, instead of every hour, have it every 2 hours, so you've only got one bus that just does a loop instead of having two buses, and that'll save you 50% of your money. Because during outside of rush hour, doesn't really matter having one every 2 hours. It's better than having none. It's crazy, but it should be cheaper. It should be cheaper than driving in and paying to park all day, even with the parking.
I'm an old age pensioner, you see.
I've got quite a way to go before I get
So
mine.
I don't know how much it costs. And you see, I can jump on anything anywhere
Yeah,
over the whole country,
yeah.
which is amazing. Yeah. So when we went years ago, went to visit somebody in the Lake District, they said, "Oh, I don't have it." I said, "We can go on the bus." They were on.
Does it work on some trains as well?
No, I've not renewed it for a while. The senior rail card, and that you get a third off your ticket.
Yeah.
So I didn't go very far. I used to go to Leamington Spa to see my friend, meet her halfway, and of course it's only about £15, from which you do notice it, but it's not the same as paying. Just that little bit more makes it seem more manageable.
Yeah. See, I'm sure in the West Midlands where I grew up, there were Centro trains which were part of the bus service.
Yeah.
So you could go to Birmingham on the train if you had a pension. But my dad was a bus driver, you see. And back in the 70s and 80s, there used to be a specific time where the pensioners could get their ticket. And they were known in the bus trade as twirlies, because they'd stand there going, "Am I twirly? Am I twirly?" to pay to get the free thing, waving the passes. So it's like, oh, we've got the twirlies on. Who have I got in the classroom, Chris? Hello, Chris. I have Christine, and I have Mark, who you won't know. He's new. He came to a pastel class 2 weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, and he wants to try acrylics.
I like acrylics. I had a bad experience with watercolour.
Christine's first watercolour class, it was really hard. It was billowing clouds, water, boat, gravel. If you were going to pick a difficult one to start, you'd pick that one.
And it was a complete reflection of the sky, and it wasn't like you couldn't make up the sky like you can on a lot. And I've been getting all this praise from my friends for my acrylics, and then so that one, I said, "Oh dear, what happened to your picture? You thought I dropped it in a puddle or something and damaged it."
Okay.
It was so bad.
Rosemary says, "Hello, Christine, and welcome, Mark." Rosemary's a regular. We've got three. I think I've got Trish, Chris, and Rosemary online today. Are we drawn-ish? There's not a lot to draw, is there? Really? Kind of's enough. So a few colours. Got black and white, always useful with acrylics. Burnt sienna, cadmium red, cadmium yellow, and cerulean. Not a lot of cerulean because we only really need it for the Toadstools, and cerulean acrylic is extremely punchy. Now clearly the photographer has shone a really strong light directly on those toadstools, because you can see it more on the screen here. You've got a very bright glow around the edge, so it's almost like a spotlight on it to give them that luminosity. I'm sure they don't look that
It shows up more on there, doesn't it?
vibrant. They remind me of slugs in a way. They look very sticky, don't they?
Yeah. The
Fungi is amazing. There's an amazing documentary on Netflix, the Fantastic World of Fungi, but the way they say it, they call it fungi.
Yeah.
Fungi. Fungi. So I couldn't work that out. It put me off a little bit. Fungi.
All Scouts. Canadian. I think he's Canadian.
Yes, I think they were all American or Canadian. Fungi. But then I thought, well, it's not called fungus. I could understand fungi
Yeah.
or fungi, but the G sound a bit weird. But there's because there's that one called Dead Man's Fingers, isn't it? And it comes out the ground like that. Oh, it's like that. I'll show you on the screen like that. Just like that. Not like that. Like that. Right. So we need a darkish background. Hopefully, let me move my mouse out of the way. I had to have a new mouse. My other one broke. I've had a week of everything breaking. Last week, you know, my car. I walked to Halfords. On my way there, they phoned to say the spring that they were sent was wrong, and they couldn't fix my car. And I said, well, how do I get home? I'm 6 miles away. I've missed the last bus.
What did they do?
Oh, nothing. They said, oh dear, thanks for understanding.
Now,
Nothing they could do.
Did you have a lift with?
No, because he'd already gone. Because this is
You
like
said-
5:30. I'll just walk
yeah,
and
you
pick
said,
it up.
Oh, no, I don't want
I'll
to
just
get
pick it
done."
up.
All right,
Yeah. So I started walking home. 6 miles. I knew it was going to be 2 hours. I was fine. But I had to message because I was due to give a lecture, because I'm giving the last one tonight. I messaged the course organiser to say, I won't get there. I've got no car. I'm walking home now. And he actually phoned me and said, you know what? I'll pick you up now. I'll drop you off at home so you can have something to eat. I'm only 10 minutes away from where you are, and then I'll pick you up again and take you to the course, which was really nice. But I was quite happy to walk because I thought it's a nice day, 2 hour walk. Nothing. I've got, you know, once I've cancelled the course, had I not been teaching that evening or due to teach, I'd have been happy walking.
Yeah.
I don't mind. So yeah, interesting week. Right, so I'm gonna go with a bit of black.
So you're wetting.
Yeah, wet your brush. You don't want acrylics to be sloppy. I find a damp to slightly wet brush works quite nicely. And I'm going to just pick up a little bit of the brown. So I've got a mixture of both tones on here.
Black and brown.
Black and brown. And I'm just slopping on. You see, this is canvas paper you're working on. It has been primed. It is actual canvas. There's only one way you can use it, so hopefully I gave it you the right way up. Because the top side is primed and the underside is very fluffy and like fabric, because that's what it is. Because what we want is we want it to feel darker on the outside, like a vignette, I suppose we're after. I'm going to do it all the way around. Now, when I went on my bike yesterday, I also discovered how bad the road is on my lane. There's almost 2 tyre tracks. It's a tarmac lane, but the road is in such bad repair that there's very little road that you can actually cycle on. And when the cars were coming, I really struggled to pull over safely because there wasn't, you know, where the tarmac's just broken away and you've got a big jagged drop. I thought I can't do that. I'm not stable enough as it is. I'd love to. I would cycle more if I was more confident and the roads were in better nick.
I cycle off-road.
Do you?
Yeah.
So have you got a very fancy bike?
I've got an old mountain bike.
Oh, okay.
Broke actually.
Oh.
In
Okay.
So I was planning a trip to Portugal,
Yeah.
and they'll do, if you've come across bike packing. So
Okay.
like a little one-man tent,
Yeah.
tarpaulin, small sleeping bag,
Nice.
gear, load that up on the bike, and then just head off into the country on gravel roads.
Oh, nice.
Wow, blue
Camp
yonder.
overnight, and
That's nice.
yeah. So
When you going?
as soon as I need to organise with my daughter between exams and all that type of stuff, and
Yeah.
um,
I'm adding a bit more blue around, brown around the middle. So it's more of a browny colour, a dark brown. I'll probably have to switch to a smaller brush or something in a minute.
Look, you see, you're going ahead.
I'm just filling in, that's all.
Where did you put your blue? Is that at the
No,
top?
no blue, I meant brown. I lied.
Oh, I'm going to get excited when you do something wrong.
do you need to top up with the water?
If it feels sticky, just dip the corner of your brush in the water.
You said it's blacker to the edge, wasn't it?
Yeah, blacker on the outer edge and more browny on the inner.
Do you need to worry about the direction?
For a background, it doesn't really matter. I tend to work in a bit of a crisscross, but I haven't got loads of paint on here, so it does sort of flatten out a little bit. But the brush strokes you can't really get rid of, so it's good to have them working in your favour. But we will put other bits on this in a second. It's just to coat it and get it ready.
It's a lot. It's using up a lot of paint, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's not really a lot in it, is there? When you think about it, as long as you don't use all of the black. So yeah, it's been tricky juggling everything today. I had to go to the bank and the post office and all of the stuff that Jackie would have done.
Now you know her worth, you see.
I've always known her worth. That's the thing. I just can't necessarily pay her the right worth because we don't make enough money. Otherwise, I would.
My friend from Australia is coming in September, and I said, "Oh, well, I'm going to organise you to go painting."
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So, because I was trying, experience things that I do is what we.
Yeah, well, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, we just carry on our own life. She's, "Oh, I've never painted a thing."
Well, if she likes it, she can do the videos on catch up.
Yes, that's what I thought.
When I do my monthly free Saturday morning demos, we have a guy that stays up until midnight in Hawaii to watch.
Wow.
And occasionally we get people from India, Australia, South Africa.
Oh, you see,
Incredible.
It's really fun for a tiny shop. It's quite amazing, really.
it just shows the power of our modern life,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Communication.
What's frustrating, we had all of this technology before lockdown, but we just never did anything with it. I never had the need, but as I say, necessity is the mother of invention and all that. So I'm glad. It's I actually think if it wasn't for the online side of like the few online sales we get and the online students, I really don't think we'd be here still. Because people haven't fully come back yet, as you can see from the empty seats. Our acrylic class, you see, Mark, we used to have 9 every other Tuesday. 9 people in here. Yeah, it was heaving, but
It's like that. There's a picture of that on your page, isn't there?
Yeah.
Of this full up this room.
it's
I've been on my own mostly, haven't I, Barry?
yeah. Well, you've been coming off and on since what, October?
Yeah.
And then you in between toe breaks.
Yeah. Literally toe breaks.
Yeah. She came in her first lesson with a toe cast thing and a big open toe strapped shoe. Came for a few lessons. It started getting fine. Then you came in springing up the stairs in shoes,
Yeah.
and then you went missing again for a couple of months because you broke it.
Yeah.
Again.
It was on and off for 2 years. The number of times I broke them, had the operations on both feet, and then just continued to break one of them. Same one over and over again. And specialist would not and knees.
I bet.
He kept saying, you're here again. I said, well, broke it again.
Oh dear me.
Funny little things toes there, aren't they?
Oh.
But how do we need them though? It's amazing, isn't it? How useful they are for balance and.
Well, it affected me so much that when I used to watch anything like Strictly Come Dancing, I was on edge all the time. When they ran up the stairs, I was like, be careful, just they don't realise how precious their feet are and all this. I was, panic stricken when I used to see people
Yeah.
dancing.
You've only got to stub your toe and you know the pain that causes. It's like a paper cut as well, isn't it? Sometimes it's the little things.
Tiny things. But touch wood, I have stopped falling over. So
Well, that's good.
Is that-
It's always a good thing.
Can you imagine? My friend Alison used to send a message every day. Have you fallen over today? And it was daily.
My ex-wife used to fall down the stairs all the time because she used to wear very baggy jeans and she used to get a heel caught up in it. And I came home one day and she'd managed to drag herself to the settee, but she dislocated her knee because she fell all the way down the stairs because she caught a heel. And I lived in a very old Victorian nail maker's 2 up 2 down cottage terrace, and I ended up having to spend tens of thousands remodelling the staircase and the house because my staircase was in a cupboard. When I viewed the house, I said, where are your stairs? And it literally was a width of a door, like a little castle turret staircase, really deep, steep stairs. And she fell down those, so we ended up having to have the whole chimney breast out and a long staircase in the wall down the side to make it slightly better. Never mind.
Yes, the things we do. What do we?
Just shove them in your water, give them a good clean. If you stab them down the bottom of the jar, that gives it a bit of a clean. And then you've got a rag if you want to wipe it off. It's a funny thing with acrylics because obviously the more you clean the brush, the wetter your bristles are and the sloppier the paint gets. So you're almost tempted to not ever clean them, but if you don't, then they'll go stiff and then they'll solidify. So it's a bit of a catch-22. We want to let that dry for a minute and then we'll add some bluer tones at the top. Should we back it one sec?
Of course, you've got to look after the shop as well. And answer telephone. It's a little in between you. Yeah, this is hopefully my son's birthday present.
Oh, nice.
Because he does foraging, and it was just lucky that this was the right week because his birthday is 8th of April.
Pressure's on.
Yeah. Mind you, he's always very complimentary when I send him a gift. It's very sweet. My best boy.
Good.
He's only 28.
Yeah. Still a boy.
Yeah. The girls get a bit jealous. Well, it's girls and dads, and
True, I guess.
it comes like that.
I guess it's classic, isn't it?
Yeah. My daughter, you know, she's helping her dad move house. They didn't even know till I sent them the address. I told them. Oh, I didn't think it was yet. You know, I don't think she said that we had dinner, but there you go.
Right. What I want to do is do a bit of black and a little bit of blue. And just
I've got a black background all this time.
no, I don't. I didn't want too much black. So you might not see this very easily, but this is black and a little bit of the blue, and I'm just scribbling it over the top part
So you use the black and the blue
together to just make a really dark tone.
and quite thick.
Thick, but I'm really pushing it around.
Okay.
And
a
this
tiny
just-
bit of blue, is it?
Well, the blue's really strong, so you don't need much of it, but it's just to give it a little tint.
Right. And are you using the big?
I'm using a
one
small, yeah, the next one down, like the 1/2 inch, just to give it a little bit of an extra tint. I don't want it too light though, because I really want the focus to be on the toadstools.
Just in the top. Sort of
Yeah, just the top half down to the toadstool caps, I suppose.
I probably got a bit much blue in there.
It's a very strong colour.
I wasn't aware even how to use acrylic paints.
Yeah.
No.
So it is a bit more like emulsion, but they're a bit thicker.
Yeah, but I like how, you know, with this paper plate and you just sort of mix a few in.
Yeah.
It's,
You don't need a lot of colours with most things. Like with pastels, it's harder to blend and mix, so you need more colours. But with paints, I think I use a maximum of 9 colours. And with those 9, you can mix 3,000 to 4,000 combinations. It's just knowing which colours give you which results.
You know, with me coming, we've never had. This is the most we've ever had colours.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is the most we've had. Yeah.
I suppose it would be. Yeah, I mean black and white we use a lot,
Yeah.
but the bear paint was the bear last week? Was that
No.
last week? No, it was the boat on the lake last week.
Yes.
The bear painting, we actually tinted the whole canvas yellow because it was an evening sunset glow through a forest with a bear walking along the river. So it's just knowing how to the sequence in which to use a colour and also which colours. So my palette, I have 2 of each primary. If you like, I have a warm and a cool of each one. So I have a green based yellow and an orange based yellow. An orange based red, a purple based red, a purple based blue, and a green based blue. 2 earth tones, a black and a white. And then when I look at the image in order to know what colours, I see how I can reduce it. So I need to see which colours, because the fewer colours you use, the more harmony you've got in a painting. Because every aspect is related to another colour, if you know what I mean. So by putting that hint of blue in the sky, or the top, when we do the blue in the toadstools to get the green, it will link the 2 together, so it won't look like it's jarring.
got you.
Whereas if you, and I've got nothing against people using green tubes of paint, but if you buy just a tube of green and you only use it in one field or something of a landscape, then it's going to stand out because it's not related to any
Totally
other. Yeah.
out. Got you.
So yeah, I like to restrict the amount of colours where possible. Sometimes I restrict them more than I need to, but it's good for teaching really how to restrict the colours. So yeah, just in watercolours you don't need black and white, but for oils, gouache and acrylics I do. We've got a free half-hour demo on our website on colour mixing. You might be interested to have a look at that. Just because it makes a little bit more sense. Very briefly, while waiting for that to dry, by having a green-based, well, I can show you with watercolour tubes. So if you imagine, hopefully this bit's dry. That's what's from me. So my basic colours are like that. So here is an orange based yellow and a green based yellow, a purple based blue, a green based blue, a purple based red, and an orange based red. So when you mix, the basic colour wheel was invented in the 1700s as a guide, but it's sort of like been taken as law, and that supposes that all colours can be made up of 3 primary colours, which is impossible. There's no such thing as pure paint. The way that light absorbs and reflects, if we mixed yellow and blue pure paint, we'd get black, because they'd absorb and counteract each other, whereas we get green, so we know that there's no pure pigment. So whether you're in B&Q or an art shop, all paints are either one or another. So all yellows that have ever been made are either green based or orange based. Photocopier or printer toner, yellow is green based. All blues are either purple based or green based. Photocopier and printer cyan is green based. And all reds are either purple based and red based. Printer magenta is purple based. So they work on those 3 primaries with black, but they are limited. Art history publications print with 9 colours, and exactly like this. It's fascinating. So if I wanted a bright green, if you think of it as a mathematical equation, you want the colours that have got the most green in it. So you want a green yellow and a green blue. If you want a mid-green, you've got 2 options. Keep that green yellow and add the purple blue, or keep that green blue and add the orange yellow. If you want a dull green, you want the yellow and the blue that has less green in, so you use the orange green and the purple base blue. So it's quite clever when you think about it. This knowledge has been around for a long time. In the Renaissance they used 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 blues, but they didn't have the science to back it up. But in the 1980s, a guy called Michael Wilcox, who runs the School of Colour, and I'm a trained tutor with them, and it looks at the science of how we see colour. He actually took all paints and ran the light spectrum through it to see what we see, and our eyes can only really see 3 colour hues on any one object at any time. So mainly 2 and a little bit, and he found out that ultramarine, for example, you see loads of blue, then loads of purple and a tiny bit of green, whereas with cerulean you see loads of blue, loads of green and a tiny bit of purple. Yeah. And he wrote a book. It's very sciencey, but it's called Blue and Yellow Don't Make Green, and the whole process is the colour mixing way using that. And so sometimes he calls it the colour bias wheel, because each colour is biased towards another. Other people call it the split primary colour, because you're using 2 of each primary colour. So it's been around for a while, but it's not really fully taught. But when I taught it about 11-12 years ago, I had a lady in my class who was probably in her 70s, who'd been painting all her life, and at the end of the course she said, it feels like a veil has been lifted. I now understand why I've been getting it wrong. Because a lot of art teachers, and I'm not decrying any art teachers, or are often artists, and they only know what they know from how they got there. They wouldn't necessarily know how to do something else. And
it's just acquired knowledge, I guess, through the process of
absolutely. So they'll know by making mistakes how to get the colours that they need. Yeah. We had a really interesting speaker at the Art Society years ago, and he said you can make every colour you need out of yellow ochre, which is an orangey brown, crimson and ultramarine. Now I knew that was incorrect, but what he meant is he could make every colour he needed out of those three colours, but people were thinking that you could do anything out of it. But yeah, so I teach based on the split primary or colour bias wheel, because it just makes a lot more sense, and it sort of like demystifies it. And if you think of it as a mathematical equation, like with the green, that plus that will always give you that. It might have more of that or more of that, but it will look like lemon yellow and cerulean blue will always be a bright green no matter what you do, because scientifically they've both got green in it. It might be more yellow or it might be more blue,
Yeah,
but
right.
where it all goes tricky with colour mixing is when you add a third colour, because you just mix and swirl, mix and swirl, mix and swirl. There is ways around it, and we'll probably be doing some of that today, and I'll talk you through it. Right, we want to add a bit of texture in the forest floor here. We're not going to really do much in the back. The out of focus mushrooms are going to be tricky. We'll think about that later on, but I'm going to get a little small flat brush, tiny one, and I don't know if that brown is too orange. Maybe I'll stick a pinhead of blue in there just to dull it down a little bit, and I'm kind of going to create, does that stand out? No. Right, so I need to add a tiny bit of white in there as well. So a lot of brown, a little bit of blue, and a little bit of white. Unfortunately, in the art world, a lot of artists kind of hide a lot of knowledge because they're frightened. You know, they don't want to pass it on. They like the secretive side of it. But to me, if nobody knows, how are they going to learn? It shouldn't be a secret. So I just want this quite subtle, so it's only slightly lighter. So there's a lot of brown, a bit of blue, and a tiny bit of white. So I'm using this little flat brush because as I move it on its side and add more pressure, I will get these sort of leaf shapes. So my paint is a little bit more fluid now than it's ever been. It's not quite inky. But I could talk about colour forever, but we actually get people coming in the shop that have been doing paintings, and they'll bring a photograph in and they'll say, how do I mix this colour? But I can roughly work out how to mix any colour from a combination of 8, which is good fun, really. Somebody said to me once, doesn't it make it more boring because you always know what colours? And I went, well, no, it makes it less frustrating because I'm not swirling colours around just getting mud every 5 minutes. Unless you want mud, of course. There are times you need mud.
Yeah, that sort of brings back memories of school. Mixing colours
And not knowing why.
Slightly brown and green.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is understanding why you get that, and then aiming to get it the next time. So with the way I teach it, I haven't invented it. I won't pretend I have. But you kind of are able to get the colour you want every single time because you know the equation that's needed to get it. I'm just adding a few of these in the lower part. You can do as many or as few as you want. I did have a student doing a degree course, a foundation degree at the college, and she came to a full day's colour mixing class. I don't do them anymore because I've got the videos available to buy. And they were never, weirdly, never that well attended, because I think people believe they could just muddle on through, but the problem is you just don't know if you don't understand why you're getting there, you're gonna constantly make errors that you don't need.
To me, it seems, it's not something I never considered or was aware of. It seems getting the colours to match because you can take colours that seemingly won't go together.
Yes.
But as long as the tone, as long as the base
Yes.
tone of the colours are the same, you can. It expands.
Absolutely, and you could use,
Yeah.
and somebody said to me, "Oh, what if you want to use this vibrant green?" I said, "Well, you can, but it helps if that vibrant green is the main tone in everything. So it's present in the background, it's present in the trees, it's present in the object. So
Yeah, no,
that's your key
it's
colour."
like, who'd wear green and purple?
Yeah,
But if they're the same tone,
absolutely,
base
they
tone,
work really well.
you can, yeah.
So that's it. So with this one, we can make greens and we can make purples and we can make oranges and we can do all of this out of this, but they're all going to be harmonious because they're the right tones. I love colour. But this student, the foundation degree student, by lunchtime she said to me, "I've learned more in this first 2.5 hours than I have a whole year's degree, and your course has only cost 55 quid." Which was, I felt quite happy and also sad.
I can imagine for somebody that's got good artistic skills to have that revelation. It must be incredible. You know.
I mean, it's like everything takes ages to get used to, but if you only then use those colours, you start learning pretty quickly. One of our suppliers said to me when they found out that I do it, they said, "Well, surely you're doing yourself out of business. You know, you're selling 72 colours." And I said, "But the trouble is, if I've got somebody that comes in and they want a specific purple for one job, then they're going to buy that purple, use it for that one job, have loads of it left and never come back. But by teaching people how to mix colours, yes, I might not sell all 72, but I'll be selling the same 9 on constant repeat because you need them."
It's easier for you to stop.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we do sell all of them mostly, but and some people will go, "Well, I don't want to mix. I want to just have it." Well, that's fair enough. But I think at least understand why certain colours give you this.
I do think that's a valuable piece of information.
Good.
Definitely.
So it works with any paint, even with pastels. Really, you'll find, and actually in an art shop, and I think in paints, you'll see that the colours are actually linked. So they start in green based yellows, then they go in orange based yellows, oranges, orange based reds, purple based reds, purples, purple based blues, green based blues, greens, browns, earth tones, black and white. So the shelves do it for you, but you just don't understand. I love it. I mean, after 25 years teaching, I still really get excited about mixing a colour, even though I know exactly what I'm going to get. I had a student a long time ago. I used to run used to call it open art surgery, and people would just come in and rent the classroom seat out and just paint while I was working in the shop. And a student had done my colour mixing day, and she'd get a photograph that she was like a reference photo, and she'd bring her colour chart that we made on the day and run it out, hover it over her photograph, and then make notes of which colours matched down the side. So she worked out the colours needed, the colour mixes, and she nipped to the loo halfway through a painting, and I hadn't realised. I thought it was a finished piece, but she'd left the photograph in the middle of the picture on the canvas, and the colours were so good you couldn't tell the difference between the photograph and the painting. It's amazing. Blew my mind. So as that dries, because we're coming up to 3 o'clock, cup of tea o'clock, I'm going to add more brown and a little bit of yellow to make it a little bit more orange. And that can be, I know that's a pine cone, but I'm going to ignore that that's a pine cone, because I think that's one step too far today. And I can just place more of these leafy things. and having the more orange tones towards the front pushes the foreground towards us, and we'll hopefully have the bluer tones at the back, so it doesn't feel it gives us greater distance, because we've not really got a horizon, midground, foreground thing in this. We had a lovely class last night. We were doing watercolours, and we did a lovely overgrown meadow. Lots of shadows in there. Although I won't be, the Monday evening watercolour class is changing from July. It's going to be a water-based media class, so 1 week watercolours, another week gouache, another week watercolour pencils, another week pen and wash. Here, because the actual watercolour class has been very poorly attended since before COVID. Again, that used to have 9 and a waiting list. So most of our classes were like that in 2019. I'm adding just a bit more yellow to some of them. But I can't really afford to take the hit on an evening to work for a £5 or what have you. So
there's a limit to that.
yeah, I've done it for 8 months in the hope that things will pick up, and they haven't. So
I can't understand that, because you'd think people would be so keen to get out.
yeah,
I was.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of.
I think it does depend, but I think a lot of people, it's not necessarily just that. I think people have reassessed what they want to do, and if they'd been coming to me for a few years, maybe they think, oh, I'll just have a little bit of a break or what have you, which is fine. It would be nice to know, just so I could plan, but I've had to cancel the morning gouache class from next month, from July as well, because that's another one where I'm often just talking to myself, which I'm very good at, but doesn't really bring in the money. Because you see, because we've got our sister site, the Art Stream Club, where we record our lessons and then put them on, so people can, like a pay-per-view thing, which is supposed to be additional income, but with the watercolour and the gouache class, it's almost becoming a main income, and that's not what it's about. So never mind. But with us changing our curriculum and doing them on a 6-monthly basis, it's quite good, because we can test out things, see what works, see what doesn't work, and reintroduce it again 6 months down the line. So it's fine. But it does look like watercolours is becoming less popular, whereas before it was the most popular medium. And I think it was like we were saying in the pastel class, more people are using drier mediums and markers and more portable stuff.
Is that associated to demographics at all?
I think so. I think fewer people are able to retire, so they're having to do art on the go. We've picked up very few new retirees over the last 5 years. So sometimes in a class we might have people in their 20s and people in their late 60s, early 70s. Yeah, it's really interesting that we get very few people in the 40 to 50 age category. That's when we did the evening class that was full of those people, but they haven't come back, and I think now people are having to assess, with the rise in fuel and energy costs, art is a luxury, even though I think it's really good for mental health. I would say that, wouldn't I? But I think it's a very good way to be present, but trying to get that message across that, for £6 for an online lesson for 2 hours is a really good switch off, or £12 in real life, is a really good time to just escape everything. I think it will come back. It's just everything's up in the air still, isn't it? 2 years to the week.
On your to get your orange.
Yeah, add more yellow to the brown.
Yeah.
And you could add some red in there as well, and that would give you a much richer, warmer orange.
Mine still looks a bit muddy. Doesn't look like yours.
Use
More yellow.
put it on a separate pile. Quite a lot of yellow and a little bit of red, which is quite nice because you don't want to do too much because the mushrooms are the focus. But this is
And
the
you're painting sort of over some of yours.
yes, because you want it to feel like a forest floor where there's lots of layers of
And they're more or less to the front. Aren't
yeah.
Sorry, I do that a lot. Don't want to make me jump.
Christine panics a lot. Stamps her feet when it gets frustrated.
And then I'll every now and go like that.
Usually when painters got where paint shouldn't get.
Yes. Whereas in this case, it's too light, so it's.
Things will look lighter anyway because you're on a really dark background. The colours seem to stand out a lot more.
Oh, for me, I just treat this as an experiment.
Yeah, it's a good fun. It's an exploratory thing. Yeah, it's a good way of doing it. No expectations.
I'm not concerned about the results.
Yeah. Well, none of us should be. Even someone like me shouldn't be that concerned about the results because it's the whole process. And when I used to teach 3 classes that were repeated, so I used to do Monday evening and Thursday afternoon with the same class, and then 12 weeks later I'd repeat it again in another class. And I found even though I'm doing the same colours and the same image, my mood when I was painting it would correspond, and the paintings would look different each time. Because you do put some of even though we're painting something that it doesn't say anything. This is just some toadstools on an old forest floor. The way you feel, you might, if you're feeling cheerier, you might make your colours brighter. If you're feeling a little bit fed up, you might go dull.
Agree. Yeah,
It's also what you wear as clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It does
Because
vary.
we find as well, in the horticultural trade, that if it's a worrying time, people tend to go brighter. We sell more.
To try and cheer themselves up.
Yeah, and then once they're confident with how things are going and everything, they tend to go for more of the pastel shades and everything. And it's sort of like they've relaxed.
Yes.
But the red is sort of fear.
Yeah.
They've got a bit. So we used to gauge what we got in, or I made, for planted displays or whatever, by the political or whatever. And when we used to sell most of the pastels? Henman. When Henman was playing tennis.
Oh really?
Yes.
Oh, how interesting.
And we used to have the Henman factor. We would look up when he was on court and tell the girls to go home because we knew customers would drop.
That's
like
amazing.
A stone. But yeah, it was. I made pastel hanging basket after pastel hanging basket that summer. Well, the summers that he was on the top thing. Yeah, we used to call it the Henman factor.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right, I can do the drinks now while that dries. £1.50.
Yes.
What are you having? Tea?
I'll
No.
have
Tea?
Yeah.
You have weak tea
Yeah.
and black, or do you want any non-dairy milk or not?
No.
No, just black. A weak black tea and
Black Americano.
a black Americano.
That was a mistake. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
I caught my brush on the page.
Oh. Yeah, I did that a lot.
what he is. No, no.
No, no.
He's just a straightforward, lovely guy.
And talented.
Oh yeah,
Very talented.
very. In all mediums as well. And so quick. At Christmas time, I bought my dogs a portrait of themselves. For my dogs, I bought them a portrait of themselves that Barry did for me. And they didn't know they were getting it. They were really pleased with them. No, they were lovely, really lovely. And he did them from. I sent him a series of pictures of them in different angles and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were lovely. So mine's not going to be dry because I'm still painting. This is when it starts to go off. He's got
Mine
that one.
started going on a long time ago.
Yeah, that thing is don't be an adder. He often
Yes.
says that. Gotta stop when you stop. You know, don't. Not to darken this candle. It's too bright. Too straight. See, when I start candles, it's usually not empty.
This side, the other side of your water.
Had to knock it back a bit because they looked like wheat ears because they weren't curvy enough.
There we go. Right, we can work on the toadstools in a sec.
Yes, there's always a fear of dipping your brush in the tea.
Well, I drink. That's why I drink left-handed. So I'm left-handed. I have my water jar on the right. I drink left-handed because I will never go that way to clean my brush. It's all the little things. All the little things. You see, the little tips. Also, it's really useful to drink left-handed because most people don't, and it means it's a nicer side of the cup. especially if
You're
you're in
in
cafe,
Italy.
if you're in cafes or anybody's house, you know,
Yes.
less chance of cold sores and all that
My
stuff.
God, I'm going to have one of those lip guards on. Put Vaseline.
It's true though. Although I shouldn't tell everybody my secret, because then everybody will drink left-handed. And it also means you actually get to see the patterns on cups and the fun designs, because they're always facing out when you drink them most of the time, aren't they? But this way you can read them.
Tip it down you as you
Hmm.
you look at the pictures.
Right, I'm going to stick with this smaller thing. Now, the stem is yellow, greeny, grey, isn't it? It's a really weird colour.
Bottom.
So if I pull out some yellow,
And that's with the small flat.
a small flat, just for a little bit of control. And I'll go with a little tiny bit of the blue.
This is where I usually go wrong and get that terrible colour.
And I am going to go in with a less than a pinhead of the brown. And that might dull it down a little. And we'll see what that looks like.
So we're mainly yellow.
Mainly yellow, a really small amount of blue.
Damp.
Because the more you've used the blue, it'll just go whew, really in your face. And I did add a really small amount of burnt sienna. Now, annoyingly, I haven't made anywhere near enough. I've only made enough to do this one stem, so I'm going to have to mix up some more.
So you put a dab. No, it is quite bright then, isn't it? Dab of.
Because this is an orange yellow, which is quite bright.
Right.
And a little bit of blue. Makes almost a chartreuse. And then a tiny bit of brown. You could add a bit of red, but if you add too much red, which is a complementary opposite, it dulls down and goes brown. So brown is the default mix for most colour if you go too crazy with your mix. So I'm just going to block in. Yellows are the most transparent colours in paint, which is why we've left this white. Otherwise it would just be quite dark, and if you've had to go over anything of your background, you'll know that that yellow is a little bit transparent. How's it looking online? You're very quiet today. Christine, I know you're painting later, so you could tell me yours is looking amazing. No, not Christine, Trish. You're Christine. Oh, you gotta clamp it down. I didn't clamp it down because I didn't know how free you wanted to be today. For the benefit of you watching at home, Christine is so proper now, she has to have an easel to work. She refuses to work until I've set the easel up for her. She's a proper prima donna.
I just couldn't see it when it was flat.
I think that's fine. You find your own level with all of this stuff.
Well, I think it's low over here.
I struggle with easels. If I'm doing big paintings, I will use an easel, but usually I'm on a table. I used to paint on the floor.
I think it's because I can get nearer to it.
Yeah. I should really, because of my IBS and stomach pains and stuff, I shouldn't be hunched over a table for 6 hours a day.
Well, there you go.
But I haven't worked out how to get a camera set up to be on an easel.
Yes, I can see a pencil line through.
Yeah. White will make it more opaque, but it does lighten the colour. But there are elements of it that are a little bit lighter, so you could add a little bit of white. But don't forget, if it feels a bit sticky, add just a really small touch of water.
I'm going to pretend it's sort of stainy bits on the
The one that's behind seems to be a little bit lighter than the other two.
even though it's at the back.
Yeah, which is unusual. It must be the way the light's shining through them. Kathy's daughter has decided in her late 20s to take up art, and she does, because she does a lot of animal wildlife rescues for charities and things. She's using pastel pencils and doing a lot of animal pictures, so she's messaging me a lot for tips and advice. And today she's realised how much you start appreciating or looking at colour in such a different way. You know, you'll look at something and you'd take it for granted before, but all of a sudden you see subtleties in tone and shape. It's amazing. It does heighten your appreciation of the world around you. Or you'll look at something and you'll go, if I painted that, it wouldn't look real.
Yeah. I look at you know, when I look out in the countryside, I look at it so differently now. You know, with looking at, as you say, the different.
Yeah.
Oh, this looks rubbish, Barry. I can't get a straight line.
Add more water with your brush.
And what about using?
Use your thin brush, yeah. Use your thin brush and add more water to get it, yeah.
Rigger.
Use your rigger. Yeah, and then you want your paint very dilute if you need to get a little bit of.
And moisten it with tea, obviously.
It's the same. Actually, your tea and the water jar are almost the same colour now,
Yeah.
so you've got to be careful.
Yeah. And I'm sure the paint isn't poisonous. Well, I hope.
Well, it's plastic, so as much as eating anything plastic is poisonous. But you'll be alright. Just need to make this slightly darker, so I'm going to add a little bit more blue and a little bit more brown. Not wonderfully neatly, though.
Oh, you don't know. It's trying to get a good edge on something that's such a contrast, isn't it?
It is. It's not easy.
Nothing is it?
Nope. I think a bit more blue and brown. It's going to be good, it will. We've got an hour to go, so don't worry.
I don't want the edge to be wiggly.
Well, don't forget, you can use your background colour to neaten it up afterwards. Because that was just black and brown, wasn't it? So you can remix that. It's probably going to be easier for you to remix the background colour to paint over the top than it is to try and keep matching your toadstool stem. I've gone over a little bit. I wiggled too excitedly. Because that does happen. So yeah, I've made a slightly darker tone out of the same colours, but I've added a bit more blue and brown. And that does help. Look at where the darker tones. Oh, but it is going to look amateurish until we add more lights and darks. So as you start to model the stalks with highlights and shadows and stuff, it will improve. I promise. Because a lot of, with my watercolour students, I always tell them, don't judge your painting until the end, because the dark, in watercolours particularly, the dark doesn't go on until the end. And until the darks are there, nothing looks right. It's also the reason when I'm doing commissions, I refuse to send staged, you know, photographs along the way, because when you're doing a pet portrait, if you saw halfway through when I do one, it looks absolutely disgusting, like a 6-year-old would have done it, because it's not finished. So if I sent somebody who's going to pay me 120 quid, they're going to go, I'm not paying you that, I don't want it, because they can't see the process or the vision. They don't know how it's going to look. They'll only see what is there in front of their eyes. So yeah, it's interesting.
Well, my pictures are beautiful.
They are.
They're above each basket.
when I because I post on my Instagram when I do pet portraits, and Luca got so many likes and comments on it, how cute he was.
It was funny, yesterday morning I took them walking, and Luca's barks a bit, you know, and runs up, particularly gets very excited when he sees children, so he gets barky, and Flynn, he's never barked in his life, quite literally, and he met this little girl with her mum, obviously coming back from nursery, and of course Luca bounded over, Flinny hanging back, and she said, asked her mum if she could ask to stroke them. She was about 3, it's quite small, and obviously mum said, asked me, and I said yes, and she said, can I stroke the non-barky one? And of course Flynn attaches himself to you as if he's known you for life, and he actually lives with you when he sees somebody new.
That's funny because my sister's got 4 dogs. She's got a pug, 2 Shih Tzus, and a massive Dog de Bordeaux. The big things. And when people see her walking, they're automatically gravitated towards the Shih Tzus, who are the most vicious little things when they're out. And they're scared of the Dog de Bordeaux, who is scared of her own shadow.
Yeah.
And it's funny how it is very different, people's perceptions of dogs.
Because they say a lot of those little dogs think they're big dogs.
Yeah.
And are more. Oh God, I nearly did it again. The T. And so they're more aggressive, as it were.
Yeah.
Luca is just because he was my only dog for a long, long time, and he thinks he's got to protect me from everything.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I'm just adding some very runny white highlights on these stalks just to give them a little bit of solidity. I'm not sure whether I want to do out of focus ones.
No.
I'll try and do one,
I won't.
and then you can see whether you want to do it. But I'm just going to, I don't want the stalk colour to dry, you see. That's why I'm thinking out loud. So yeah, it's my last art history course tonight. 5 weeks has flown by. Then I'll go back in October for another 5 weeks. I go there twice a year.
And what do you talk about?
It's art history, so they choose what I'll give them a big pile of courses, and then they vote on what they want in what order. So they voted Pre-Raphaelites, and then reluctantly decided that they ought to study what happened after the Impressionists. So it's post-Impressionism in October, so that's stuff like Cubism and all of that. And then when I go back in the spring, they'll be looking at what is called modern art that is still not modern, it's 100 years old, but like Dadaism and Surrealism and all of that kind.
You teach that?
Yeah, I do art history lectures. We do them once a month here. I just finished one last week on Art Deco. Previously I did Art Nouveau. So they're here. I used to do 5-week courses, but again, as with everything, I was running out of students. So now I do a 2-hour class once a month. But they're all recorded because it's good to have audience participation in that. I tend to... I'm not a fan of art historians because they tend to teach opinion as fact. And I like to look at it from an artist's point of view rather than an art historian's point of view. So sometimes if something's painted blue, it may not be that they're feeling melancholic. It could be, like me, they've got blue paint left over and they don't want to run out. Because that's all it could be sometimes.
To interpret.
Yeah. There are paintings that, like with the Pre-Raphaelites, their paintings have to be interpreted in a certain way because it was painted in a certain way. They had poetry that would describe what it meant, and they'd have poems and sonnets around the frame that described it. So there is a lot of meaning in a Pre-Raphaelite painting, and every flower has symbolism. But so like with the famous Ophelia in the water painting, where she's dead in the river, every flower and plant in that painting is either referred to in Hamlet or has symbolism to what Ophelia was going through.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas a constable's landscape is just what he saw. There's no meaning behind it.
No, I can appreciate that.
But then there is a school of academia that would say that if I wanted to interpret something like that, then that's fine. But as an artist, if I paint something like this mushroom picture and then in 100 years' time somebody goes, oh yes, he was clearly feeling this or that. No, I wasn't. It is just what it is. But academia allows people to interpret, but which I'm fine with, as long as it doesn't get interpreted as fact and it stays opinion.
It's just, but yeah, I guess some people's opinions are bigger than.
Absolutely. Art historian Brian Sewell, when he used to do the TV programs, whatever he said would be taken down as like law. It must be true because he said it. Whereas a lot of time it was just all subjecture. I'm going to try an out of focus toadstool on the left, and I'm going to make, because I'm conscious that my colour's going to dry. I'm doing a really, really runny stem colour, and I'm just going to go like that. So it's almost there, but not quite. Oh, there is one off the edge, so I'm going to put one in here as well. Just a You could do as many as you want, to be honest, once you get the hang of this, but you want it so you can see through it. Yeah, I used to lecture for art history for art education, proper adult education facilities, but it got to the point where it's all non-accredited, so you don't even get certificate for attendance. However, we were getting in-house observations all the time, and they were insisting on paired activities and quizzes, and a lot of people are there just to look at some art and learn a bit more about it. They're not there to get an art history degree. It's just a bit like these classes, really. You want to learn something, but you know it's not to be your next career choice. And I kind of railed against it, so left. Because I was only paid 2 hours contact time, but I'd have to do individual learning plans, reports, assessments, plus it would take, in a 2-hour art history lecture, it would take 5-6 hours to prepare the lecture, which is all unpaid for, and then to be observed, and you've got mainly quite intelligent retired people to be then told you need group activity, paired work, and maybe do some colouring in, and you haven't got your learning outcome on the board. Well, no, I haven't, because yeah, far too structured for something that's supposed to be fun. And I was told you need to have them in small groups. So, because she said you were looking at a painting and you told them what it was, what the symbolism was. She said you could have had them in groups to discuss the symbolism, and I said, but they don't know what it is until I've told them what it is. So there'd be 8 groups, and they'd all take 5 minutes to discuss. When they wouldn't discuss it, they'd be talking about gardening, grandchildren, and all of that kind of thing. Then Then you put pressure on one of them to have to speak up in public, in each group, and that'd take another 5 minutes to report back from everybody. Then they'd nearly always be wrong, and then I'd have to then tell them the correct answer. So what's the point? I've just wasted half an hour of a 2-hour lesson.
And you see, people are not there for that.
No, they're not.
I bet if you ask the people participating, what do you actually want?
Well, that's what she said. Actually, that's what I was told. She said, I've spoken to the learners, and they're getting far more out of the course than they thought. But she said, your lesson plan talks about group work. I said, yes, there's 15. That's a group. And she went, no, small paired activities. I went, no, I'm not doing. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. They won't come back. So I left. I'm just going to darken a little bit underneath the caps, and then we'll look at the caps.
Or what are you doing now?
I've just added a bit more blue as a slight bit of shadow right underneath each stem. See, I might end up having to do a bit more lighter tones on the brackeny stuff. I don't know yet. I'll use that to try and separate the two stalks.
So you can't put a bush over it.
You can't, no. This is the problem. But the good thing is, as long as it looks like what it's supposed to look like, in terms of it looks like a greeny blue toadstool, then we're all right, aren't we?
Not if the stem's wonky.
Oh, it'll be okay. You can always... I've had to touch up some of mine where I've slipped, just mixing a bit of brown and black and going round the background again. It's fine. I'm sure nobody will look that closely.
Well, it's a
It will be fine.
So you put this stress on, like,
Yeah, you put pressure on yourself. I think my out of focus mushrooms are too transparent. Let me see if I can put a bit more colour on. As it's dried, it's disappeared. Right, so half an hour left. Where does the time go? Let's get rid of the big brush. Well, actually, I can probably do the rest of it with this smaller brush today.
there's a little bit of, what did you mix the blue into?
Into the stalk colour. Because now the stalk is a very blue-green, so this is where we get more blue. I'm using the small flat brush again. More blue and some yellow. And I might use a little bit of white. Just a little bit, just so it stands out against the background and makes it more opaque. But we can lighten it anyway.
Where are we at now? What are we doing? Ooh.
That's quite green. I'm going to add more blue to this later, but I just want to get a bit of colour on. And again, slick enough to give you a straight edge. So it is tricky to get the right amount of water and paint.
So if I do the edge of my stems with a bit more watery.
Yeah. But you see, this is where it gets tricky, Christine, because too much water will make it very transparent, so then you don't get a solid edge. So it is one of those things that is impossible to teach. If it was like a cookery lesson where I could say, add 2 parts this to 1 part that, it would work.
Even talk about cookery with me. Awful at it.
Are you?
The sun is fabulous.
You see, I'm a right stickler for reading the ingredients, whereas Jackie just slings anything in and it turns out really well. It's annoying.
I'm far too experimental.
Are you?
I can never do the same thing twice.
No, I create things that.
Are you like Letitia Cropley out the Vicar of Dibley, where she'd go like random food? Or ish.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, wow, that's quite good, and sometimes it's like, okay, whoops,
Never again.
let's call pizza. You've got to try, haven't you?
You have. Well, you don't know until you either succeed or don't succeed.
And the thing is, with yours and my method, if it's really nice, you can't repeat it
No,
because there's been no measuring.
I struggle with that. It's just how it looks, and much to do with colour as well, making sure you get enough different colours on the plate.
This is looking a bit better now.
I knew it would. I need to add more blue really, but I'm going to do a few out of focus wishy-washy caps.
If this is accurate enough, you'll probably tell me
Which it is.
which it is. He sent me some fabulous pictures
Oh, that's good.
of his mushrooms. It was
So he forages.
He forages, he's really good at cooking, he does climbing, he does...
Oh yes, you showed us a photo last week of him hanging onto a cliff without any ropes.
Yeah.
It's adding a bit more blue to my cap because it isn't blue enough. Now the nearest I go is I grow nettles to make nettle tea, and I pick dandelions to make dandelion honey, and
Dandelion honey?
yeah, and it's not really honey because you just boil the dandelion flowers in sugar and orange.
Oh, flowers.
Yeah, you boil the flowers off. Or I made a really nice dandelion cordial last summer from the flowers, but you can... The leaves are quite good as tea, and the roots, apparently, if you grind the roots and dry them, they make a good caffeine-free substitute of coffee.
Oh.
I think I'll stick to coffee. It's just so easy. Just
Yeah, you just... Yeah. See, that's where I'm experimental. I'll try all of that kind of stuff. I grow lemon balm to make lemon balm tea as well.
It smells so pretty then, doesn't
It does, but it grows like mad. Oh, and mint tea. I'm like a kitchen witch.
Yeah, use bottles and...
Oh, I've got loads of jars and bottles and bits of stuff, and yeah.
That's what I got him for Christmas. A load of kilner jars.
That's always handy, isn't it?
Definitely.
For a forager. There's been some local foraging courses here, but I'd be frightened, especially with mushrooms. I'm dubious about getting them from the supermarket, that they're the right ones, but I'd know I'd pick the wrong one if I was out in the wild. I'd just know.
I think because there's so many varieties that you shouldn't eat.
Yes.
The ones that you...
Yeah, and then there are ones that look like the ones that you can that you shouldn't, and I just... Oh no, it's too much. Too much risk involved for me. I'm not fully risk averse, but I do draw the line.
No, I think portobello is about as exciting as I get with mushrooms.
He grows them as well
Oh,
in a cupboard.
Oh.
Yeah, how?
True that you can buy.
You can buy...
small kits
Yeah.
Yeah,
online, can't you?
like a long bit of wood, and he had one of those, and I said, "Well, that's a bit short term." He's had it for a year, and there's still.
Oh, well, I suppose they'd spore and grow more, wouldn't they? I
Yeah.
suppose,
Yeah.
as long as they're looked after well.
Oh yeah. But he makes things like that kimchi, and he gives me jars and bottles of stuff I don't know what to do with. And it's...
Oh, should you soak your feet in it or eat it?
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah.
Just depends which order.
Yes. I think you're right there.
So it's a lot more white around the edge and quite a bit of yellow as well. It's a really funny colour, but the white is crucial. That's okay, because I'm not going to be... I'm using a thin brush with this.
The other stem, but it was just the first stem. It was a bit... I suppose it's a bit better.
It's almost like ceramic, isn't it, this?
The colour.
Yeah, the way it shines as well.
It's usually because they are sticky.
Yeah, it looks very sticky.
He started his foraging in France.
Mm.
when he was climbing something. Somebody. I mean,
Okay.
a mountain, you know, and this French chap, you know, he said, well, we'll collect some stuff before we go home, you know. They just do it as a, you know, like it's nothing. Just don't even call it foraging, it's just bringing stuff back.
Yeah.
Right, it looks rubbish. Now, I've got to go all the way back to the turquoise. My favourite colour, actually. Right,
What, you on the caps?
I've got to start the caps now. I've been mucking about with that edge for ages. So it's a little bored.
I've made almost a mint green for this, but I don't know if it's quite the right colour. But I'll put a slightly more yellow wash on the mid parts as
So
well.
where did you get your turquoise from?
A lot of blue and a little bit of yellow and a tiny bit of white.
And which brush did you use?
Small flat, smallest flat. And now I'm using my really
Did
tiny
you say
rigger.
little bit of yellow.
Yeah, you want more blue. Mine wasn't blue enough, but then the centre of it is slightly more yellow. So it's just about building up.
That's a bit too built. Doing edging on flipping skirting boards are going to be easy after this.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
Some are doing yours so fast. I'm
Um,
labouring over it
mm,
and shouldn't be really.
I don't have a clue what I'm doing, so
Well, I didn't.
that gives me an advantage.
Yeah, well, I didn't first. I've only done. I've probably done a spin 6 times, I think.
Oh, okay.
Only about 6.
So I've got a delivery of stuff. I've had to buy a new amp for my singing because my other's gone a bit weird. So
Nothing to do with the singing then.
well.
I think this is the worst picture. I'm not just not might not give it to you.
Oh no! Wait and see.
Give me one.
See if I do some yellowy glaze over the middle part of the cap.
Yeah, I know, but it looks like something.
Oh, Valerie, it's lovely to see you. Sorry you're not feeling very well though. There's a lot of that about at the minute. It's the time of year, I think, when we've got sunshine, we feel a little bit happier, don't we? And then
It gets stolen from us.
he does.
And,
Fool's Spring, they call it, don't they? Feels like that at the minute.
I think we just got to take what we can get.
Well, there's nothing we can do about it, is there? I mean, it is what it is. It really is what it is. I don't like the sun anyway, being a ginger. I have to hide away in the summer.
For what, 2 days?
Yeah. Because I either have milk bottle or lobster setting. That's it for my skin. I've also ordered some more solar lights because I'm changing. I'm putting garden solar lights in my house. To try and combat the electricity increase. So I'm putting the solar panel out on the window ledge, running it through the window because I'm renting, so I can't drill everywhere, and then putting it up the solar up my. I've got 2 solar lamps tied together in the in one of my standard lamps. I've got one in the porch, one in the hall, and to be honest, it's not a lot of light. But for when you're walking through rooms or just want to pick something up out the kitchen, I'm going to put some in the kitchen as well. It's enough light, and then I've got a motion detector bulb on my landing, so every time I walk across, the light comes on for 2 minutes and then goes off again. Because I can't afford the new price hikes, so
I'm washing everything in sight.
ready for when you're not washing.
Yeah, well, like curtains, the dogs' beds.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not going to get done again in my lifetime.
It's the 1st of April.
Yeah, they're encouraging everybody to do meter readings by the 31st to make sure you're going to be charged properly. And hopefully they might come down again. I'm reluctant because there's lots of rumours that they will lower the prices at some point. So I'm reluctant to go on a 2-year set tariff because then it'll be at the highest rate now. So I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah,
And
my fixed rate ran out in about December.
Yeah, and I was with Bowl.
Well, I was N-Power, but that got bought out by Eon, so I'm now with Eon, but I didn't know about it.
Alright.
Oh, I've got a customer.
I haven't noticed any change, Still comes with the bulb name on it.
Be back in a second, and then I'll put some highlights on. We'll put some glazes and stuff on there.
Loosened up a bit with this. I usually do. trees, water. They're my they're my strong points.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, because they don't have to look like anything, do they? I can do trees, do water.
Sounds fun. Water. Doing water sounds fun.
Oh, it's good. And sky.
Sky.
If it's not
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to be specific, you see.
No.
Where
No, you just. I guess you need to just make
make it up.
the shape. The.
You just go
Yeah.
with the brush.
Uh-huh.
Well, if I dip that in the tea one more time. Got to get this bit through. This is good. That's too blue. Got edges everywhere. White bits. Yeah, I've been really pleased with some of the others.
Pardon?
I've been pleased with I was really pleased with my first one. I think it's probably the best I've done. Again, it was a landscape, bit of wall, sky, trees. Lovely. And they look very different. Ooh. Gotta get rid of this light. It's added a lot more yarn. Have you met Jackie?
Not sure.
Dark haired lady.
I don't know. I can't. I went to the pastels class a few weeks ago, and there was a couple of ladies there. But
In here. No, Jackie works in the shop.
oh yes, sorry, yes.
Worse. This is the art, the anguish of the artist. children under 5.
Okay then. She's
This
kind of
is
busy.
I have 2 dogs and runs a business online. Yeah.
I'm surprised she knows what day of the week it is half the time.
And the youngest one, who was born in lockdown, was born with kidney disease, and they, you know, they were not. They'd done the scans and things, and they could see there were like just 2 balls of cysts, and they didn't know if there were proper kidneys underneath. But fortunately, there is a kidney, and the other one, the ball of cysts, is not attached to anything. So instead of going to have to try and operate when she was newborn, but they've left it, and she's a darling little thing, and not showing any signs of having anything wrong with her at all.
Okay. They doing blood work, you know.
Oh, she had blood tests
Right,
and everything. Every 6 months it is now. But so it was awful because, you know, her husband couldn't go into any of the appointments with her, with, you know, the baby, and couldn't be there at the birth. And of course it was a very difficult one because this is the thing, the ball of cysts is 7 inches long, and so she's obviously, when she was a baby, the cysts were bigger than her head, so her tummy was huge. It still is huge, but it looks less huge because she's in proportion. And they're going to leave it. It's stopped about 0.2 a centimetre, and they reckon it will go in time.
I'm back.
But she always looks like she's got a very fat tummy. Well, this isn't improving yet, Barry, so I'd like you to explain to me.
I'm just going with more white. What are you not happy about? And don't say all of it.
Well, it looks like it's done by someone from primary school.
No, it won't. It was looking good earlier. That's like we got our highlights on. You know, like the glistening stuff, which I'm just about to do. Have a slurp of tea. Your paint water, yeah. So I'm going quite runny white. It doesn't matter if I've got a bit of yellow in there or minty green, that's okay. And I'm looking at where the light hits it on the texture. There's a little bit of light there, but I will do a very pale blue, because where can you see they've got sort of like a dome in the middle of light blue, which is reflecting the sky. So we'll do that a little bit as well. But as with everything, it's always the light bits that really help make things come to life. So I'm not going to do loads with that, but then if I mix with my little brush a lot of white and a little bit of blue, and then do a very transparent glaze of that, I might need a bit more blue in there, I think. It's amazing, you think you're doing something blue, but then when you put it on, it just looks white.
Which brush did you use for your
I'm using my little thin riggery brush.
And that's pure white, is it?
Well, the one I'm putting on now is white and water, but the previous one was just pure white.
Solid white.
With loads of water. No, watery white. And I want to dilute this down a little bit more, this blue tone. It's too opaque. But no, I've got this new PA that I've got. I've consulted. It's the one I've got is 5 years old, which is why it's starting to go a little bit tinny and not sound as it should. It's really heavy and it's huge, and since I slipped my disc last January, I'm finding it really hard to lug in and out of the car into venues because it's got the smallest wheels on it that one slight bump and the whole thing tips up over itself. So I was chatting to some other vintage singer friends who do busking and small venues, and I said, what should I go for? And my goodness, I'm shocked at how expensive everything is now. It's unbelievable. So this thing, I was hoping to get it on finance. It was £26 a month for 2 years, but I didn't get the finance, so I've had to pay for it up front, which I'm not happy about. There was only 10 left, and I think I've got about 3 weddings and an anniversary booked this year, and stuff for the Jubilee, so I need it, and I don't want to leave it to the last minute. So I've had to suck it up. So now I'm going to have to promote myself like mad so I can make it pay for itself. It's crazy, but never mind. Because I've got a massive PA system with 2 speakers and a mixing deck and all of that. But for small venues like care homes and stuff, it's just pointless. And it takes that long to set up. I think that's looking a bit slimy. They don't look slimy, they look wet, but not slimy.
Mine look a little bit like
Cardboard?
That's
Put a few bits of highlights. See, this is it. What the biggest skill of an artist is actually telling the viewer what you actually meant it to. You know, what you've ended up with is what you meant it to be. So you have to come up with amazing stories.
Oh yeah.
I've really been enjoying the Extraordinary Portrait programme on BBC One.
Oh yes.
Some amazing pictures.
That's the albino lady.
You say everyone talks about. I haven't seen that one yet. I've got it on catch up. I've seen all of them except for the albino lady, and I don't know if the Shark Attack girl's been on yet.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah, I've missed that one as well.
With a twin.
Yeah, I missed that one, but I've seen all the others, and I really enjoy seeing how other artists have portrayed portraits and their different methods.
The albino one, I think, is photograph. Artistic.
Yes, whereas this week's was more of a painting, but I liked how he got the children involved.
Yes. Really good.
And what I love more is that it's only half an hour long, so my concentration span is enough, because after being into art all day, I really can't stomach an hour or two of more art at home. So I just like to draw the line.
Oh, that is utterly beautiful.
Who am I rescuing? No. She can rescue herself. It is 4 o'clock, but because I was downstairs for 10 minutes, we'll do a little bit more. Now, I've got a customer that had done a painting and they were really pleased, so as well as buying, they wanted to talk and show me what they'd done. So that's the thing about being a little art shop, you get... That's what makes it nice, actually. I like it. Because you can't really do that in a big giant store.
No.
Just stop and whip out a painting and go, oh, this is what I've done, or how can I improve it, or whatever. So that's nice. So I might have to now, it's looking like my mushrooms are in front of my brackeny bit, you know, so I might just make a bit more orangey browns with that little flat brush and just shove some over the top. I mean, delicately and creatively place. Shove. Wow. Are you? What a shock.
Because
You do you, Christine. You do
I
you.
know I've got to do something to save this because
But you find you don't use tons of paint using it this way, do you? It's more economic than you think.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah.
Obviously, this is only one way of working with acrylics. You can paint with it very thickly, like you would oils or something, and that therefore you'd use more paint. But this, and you can paint with it like a watercolor and really dilute it.
Oh, okay.
But I like doing it in between, just a damp brush. I feel I get a good balance then, and I can work the colours easier.
You can move the paint.
Yes.
Easier with a bit more water.
Yeah. But too much water, you lose the opacity, and then to me, it's like, what's the point in using an opaque paint if you're painting transparent? That's what watercolour's for. I kind of like. I don't know if I want to do anything in the background, but I think anything up here would diminish it. If oh no, this is where I be.
It's your imagination, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As to what's behind it.
Because I'm partly thinking, oh, maybe I should have a bit of more bluey green sky coming through the top a little bit. I don't know. Let me try it, and if it doesn't work, don't do it. Or I can rub it off. But if I do really light blue watery bits, oh, actually, and rub it with my finger, because I like finger painting. Oh, that's quite nice. Look. It makes it feel a bit more ethereal and magical. I'm just putting runny blue blue and white that I use to glaze, and then I'm splodging it on, and then rubbing it around with my finger. That works quite nicely. Oh, thank you, Chris. Yeah, enjoy. Yeah, walk Harry while it's not raining. And hello, Harry. Harry's his dog. Lovely little spaniel. I've painted Harry on the beach. I wasn't on the beach. Harry was on the beach. I've got my ex-wife's dog to do. Black Labrador puppy, and she wants it on a black background.
Oh, great.
So it's like really trendy photography, pet portrait photography, is having black dogs on black backgrounds, where you just get the hint of the colour of the sheen of the fur and the colour of the eyes and the nose. So she must have confidence that I can do it.
Sounds a challenge.
Yeah, but I said to her, I will love to do this because I don't get very many black dogs. So it'd be quite good. There's no rush. So I'll probably do it over Easter or something. I think that's gonna be it for me. I've enjoyed that. Yours looks really lovely from here.
Thanks.
For a first ever. Oh, that's really nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love the brown bit.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Well,
like I said, just
trying to get used to the paints, the colours, the textures.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get used to, isn't there?
definitely.
That's really good.
No, it's definitely learn
Good.
from it, and
But I mean, for what you're saying, acrylic, for I remember you talking about it as well in the pastel class, just shoving stuff in your bag and starting off. This is less practical because you have to have your water and your brushes, and pastels probably a more practical medium. But what you could do is probably use a pastel sketch when you're away, and then you could do a bigger acrylic thing of stuff that you wanted to do afterwards. So there's lots of opportunities.
yeah, it's just something I wanted to try and just understand
Excellent.
a bit more about.
Now you see the little box thing that my son bought me, which is like a wooden box where the lid lifts up and is like a
Yeah.
and that's the thing for your picture.
Yes.
And then it's got sections for your brushes and your paints of different sorts. And when you shut it up, they don't jiggle about because I've got a piece of bubble thing on the top. So you'd be able to walk about and You
Yeah,
know, and then you've
box
only got to take
easels. They're really good. Chris had a box. Oh, he's gone now. Chris had a box easel. They're one of our best-selling easel things
I think I sent him in here,
because you can
hinting.
have it upright or flat,
Yeah.
and it stores all your stuff. So it is quite good.
I've only used
But
it.
whether you could strap it on a backpack or on a bike, that's another matter, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to keep it almost like a pad in your pocket and keep
Yeah.
it light while you're cycling.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst that will happen is the pastel will get jiggled around and crack.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, that's good. So I will take a photograph of this and post it underneath a reference image that I put in earlier. If I was going to spend any more time, I'd probably lighten a few of the brownier leafy things just to make it a bit more varied. But I think for the time that we've had, I think we've done well. So thank you very much for your company, as always. I look forward to seeing what you've done. I like it when you show me your paintings that you've created. And if you're watching on ArtStream, show me as well. You can always email us or contact us through Facebook with what you've done, because we are interested. So thank you very much. Have a good week. I know I'll see some of you. I'll see some of you again. Or tomorrow, probably, I think, for the drawing class. But take care. Have a good week and a good weekend. See you soon. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.